Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day as we are here in the middle of the 24th week of Ordinary Time. Let us continue to celebrate your love in our lives, and let us learn from today's first reading of how to love as we are called to, and we ask this through Christ our Lord. Well, I am sure if you've been to a wedding, you are quite familiar with today's first reading. Today's first reading is 1 Corinthians 13, and it is the famous passage from St. Paul on what is love. So it's that famous passage that says, it calls us to be people of love, and it says that important message, which is that we're called to love, and loving and acting in the message of love is more important than any heroic act. So we look back at what St. Paul is teaching, and like I said, you've probably seen this on every single, almost, obviously not on everyone, but almost at every wedding that you go to. And it's that famous passage where we know love is patient, love is kind, love does not put on airs. But I think it's important to understand that that is exactly what we're called to do, and therefore the most important part is the heroic acts are not really what it's called to, how we're called to love. Now, maybe I can give you a great example, because this comes up a lot in marriages. And what it is you'll hear that the vocation of marriage, people are called to build together a Catholic home, which is a loving home. That is part of the vocation of marriage. And love is patient, love is kind, and all that are things that need to be practiced at home. Now, sometimes you'll hear, for example, people will say, gee, I never experienced any love from my father. Now, I'm saying this generically. I'm not saying this about myself. But they'll say, I never heard. And the response will be, yes, but your father put food on the table. Okay. And that's an exact example of exactly what St. Paul said not to do. Do you really look at that? Obviously, he didn't say don't put food on the table, but you see, hear what I'm saying. He's saying, well, yeah, he went to work every day, but he never, ever showed love. I'm talking generically. I'm not talking about my own father. He never showed love to us because his way of showing love was maybe even putting food on the table, right? You'll hear people say that, but that's true. But those little things are important too. Those little things are extremely important. And one of the things that St. Paul makes it very clear, you can do all kinds of miraculous acts, which I'll get back to that in a minute. And you can do all these wonderful things and just show people how God is present. But if you're not loving, it doesn't mean anything. It will show others, yeah, God is present, but your actions are what he says, a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Now think about that, clanging cymbal with a C. Think about the way that works, a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. You all are familiar with the famous skit from Saturday Night Live, More Cowbell, about Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. It's a kind of spoof on that. But the whole thing is the cowbell in that skit, that belongs there, and even you want more of it. But what if the cowbell was in the middle of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? You'd go, oh, that sounds horrendous. Still a cowbell, still the same sound, but it doesn't belong there. And that's what St. Paul is saying. Oh, I'm doing this great thing. I'm doing this like a big gong, but it doesn't belong there. And therefore it doesn't work. And so at that same thing, we look at that understanding what St. Paul is saying. You can do these great, powerful, you can be a great hero. You can do wonderful things, but what people are looking for is to be patient and kind and not jealous or boastful, not turn, this is who I am. And, you'll often hear stories of celebrities not necessarily from their children, but celebrities who were loved all over the world. Everyone thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you learn that when they were home, they were real tyrants, and they didn't bring love to the home, and they didn't do that. And you hear these stories, obviously not generically across the board, but you hear these stories of these, world famous movie stars and everything else. And you look at that and say, yes, but it's the little stuff, which is what St. Paul is saying, that is the more important. It doesn't mean don't do the big stuff, but if you're doing the big stuff and you're not focused on the little stuff that people need, then that's a different thing. And that's not what we're called to do. We're called to do the little stuff and, if need be, the big stuff. But the little stuff and showing love in little things is so important. We're going to talk more about this on the other side of the break. We'll be right back right after this. Are you looking for guidance on how to live a purposeful and transformed life? Look no further than Romans 12, a chapter in the New Testament that offers practical wisdom for believers. Romans 12 begins with a powerful call to offer our bodies as living sacrifices to God, urging us to renew our minds and align them with His will. This chapter highlights the importance of humility, using our gifts for the benefit of others, and exercising genuine love. It teaches us to be diligent in serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, and being devoted to prayer. But it doesn't stop there. Romans 12 also teaches us to live in harmony with others, extending kindness and hospitality even to our enemies. It urges us to overcome evil with good and leave vengeance to God. So if you're seeking guidance on how to live a life of love, humility, and service, dive into Romans 12. Let its practical wisdom transform your life. Romans 12, a chapter that offers a roadmap to living a purposeful and transformed Christian life. Available now in the New Testament. Get your copy today. We're back, and we're talking about 1 Corinthians 13, about that important aspect of doing those things that are important to show love. And you'll always talk about that with married families, with married couples and families, how important it is for the children to know that they are valued, for how important it is for the spouses to know that they are valued. And a lot of people, especially here in the United States, don't understand that that's important for the men too. And a lot of times that whole aspect of the men are really tough and they don't need to be told how important they are. Well, that's a lie. Of course they do. Of course it's important to them to feel that way, to really feel that they are valued, because if they don't feel that way, then they may get discouraged. And a lot of people don't understand that. Same thing with women, however they're fulfilling their vocation as well. And these things are important to bring that love into the home. Now, in order to bring that love into the home, you have to build a loving family, and you can't build a loving family, as I always teach, without prayer. And prayer is essential, and we need to be people of prayer. We need to pray so that we are connected to that love. And we need to teach that prayer in families, and that is so important. So all of that comes together, love and being people of love and being people of prayer. And again, but what it says is it is the little things. Now, I have that aspect of me where I can be a really nice guy and I can be a not so nice guy. I can be like that. So, for example, I used to get phone calls where people would call and ask about what time our bingo was. Well, this was in a previous parish, and current parish we don't have bingo either. And I would say, well, we don't have bingo. And you get another call. Hey, what time is bingo? We don't have bingo here. Hey, what time is bingo? We don't have bingo here. And I get these calls. And sometimes it'd be frustrating, especially when you're in the midst of something and the phone rings and you go over and answer the phone. Hey, what time is bingo? And you go, don't have bingo. And occasionally someone would say, well, it says here on this list. And I would go, what did I just say? And that usually did not go over well, but they got the message. Well, maybe that's not the best way to handle it. Because, we're supposed to be a little bit more respectful and say, yes, I'm really sorry we don't have bingo. But that would happen so much. And, that's part of the reality of who we are. We have those times where we may lose our temper. We may have those times where we get frustrated. And we want to work with them as best we can, because our ultimate goal is to be patient and kind and loving, etc. And if we find that we're doing that all the time, that's an issue. That's a real issue. If we're always grouchy and we're always nasty and we're always screaming, that's an issue. That is something to look at and say that has to be addressed. And, for one thing, especially for men, if you find yourself always yelling and frustrated, that could be a sign you have depression and you need to talk to someone about that. Or if you find you're always yelling, then you need to find your trigger point of why you're yelling and find out how not to reach your trigger point. And that goes for women too, but a lot of times you hear that issue in men. But because that's part of doing what St. Paul says and being patient and loving as best you can. And that whole thing, don't be arrogant, don't be rude. And these are things we're called to do, but you can't do that if you're not a person of prayer. You have to be a person of prayer and build that within your family. If you find out, for example, that you're a very prayerful family, but one of your children is a bully, you have to address that with that child. The child has to learn not to bully. These are important things that are part of who we truly are. And they have to understand that bullying, including cyberbullying, is what we were talking about earlier in the week. It's a mortal sin. It needs to stop. Anyway, we will talk more tomorrow. Have yourself a blessed day. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. Remember, when you're looking for a place to attend Mass, and if you don't already attend Mass at your local parish, come to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We're located at 43 Holton Street in Allston, just a few blocks up from Soldiers Field Road. And you can check us out, come to our 10 o'clock a.m. Mass, and come to experience our Catholic worship at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts.